Oh, it started recording and I didn't even know. Hey guys, so I want to record a video to talk about something weird. Um, People might be like, what? It doesn't look like it. But I want to talk about plastic surgery and my experience getting a rhinoplasty. So, sorry you can see the TV in my mirror. I'm in my bed right now because I just don't care and I'm tired and that's what's up. So, I did not have a great experience. So, if you are thinking about getting plastic surgery, I would just say 100% do your research. Like, please do your research because um, I pretty much went to one consultation and I was a little bit younger too. So, I mean, obviously, I didn't have a lot of money and it costs money every time you go to a consultation. So, I mean, I saw this guy, he basically was like, yeah, I can do this, this, and this for you. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, that's all I want. I still wanted to look like myself, but I wanted it to be smaller, obviously. So the first thing he did was check my breathing. And what he did notice is I had a deviated septum. So that was the first issue. I couldn't really breathe through my right nostril. So I was having difficulty sleeping. I kind of still do. I feel like I get a plugged nose often, but that's besides the point. So I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. I was breathing with my mouth open all the time. And so when he told me that, I was like, okay, cool. Because I had a deviated septum, I mean, I live in Canada, so it's probably different here. I mean, I would assume that it's different here. That part of the procedure was covered because it was a breathing problem. But the actual rhinoplasty is considered cosmetic, so that part obviously was not covered. So he talked to me about that, and he said like like he had to break my nose. So once they break your nose, it does help to straighten out the septum, which makes the nose look straighter and blah blah blah. Feels really weird looking at the top of my camera because I could see a glare and it's like bugging my eyes. And I'm having some hair problems too. What's happening here? Okay, and we're good. Anyways, so the first thing he did was he kind of like mapped out what he was going to do, like what part of the nose he was going to, I don't want to say get rid of because that sounds crazy, but basically get rid of. So I had like a really big bump, like right here, like big. So it was kind of like a witchy looking nose. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I actually didn't mind that I had a bump. I just wanted it to be smaller. Like I almost said, you know what, if you could just keep the shape of my nose, but just make it a little bit smaller because every time I would look to the side, I was so self-conscious. I was always thinking like, are people looking at my profile right now? And I was always super stressed out about it. And so, and people had bugged me about it in the past, and it shouldn't have bothered me to the extent that it did because, you know, I have my family's nose and they all look good, and you know, it shouldn't be about caring what other people think. And it wasn't, but it was. Like, I can't explain it. Obviously, if you're self-conscious about something yourself, you know, like, okay, if somebody knows something bothers you, they're going to use it against you. So if somebody's trying to be a dick to you and they know you're self-conscious about that, they're going to use that against you if they're trying to be really, really mean. So, yeah. So I have heard comments in the past like, ooh, blah, 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 your nose. Ooh, Miss Thing with a big nose and whatever. And I didn't ever think I was Miss Thing or any kind of model or whatever. So that's irrelevant. Anyways, so it had bothered me for a really long time. Finally, I think I was 26. Like I waited a long time. But I mean, obviously I didn't have money. If this is something like you are convinced you really really want to do, save up some money, make sure you use it towards like an awesome surgeon. Anyway, back to the appointment. Had one appointment. I was like, "Okay, done, schedule it." Obviously, I should have done my research of who the best surgeon in my city is, but I didn't. I just, or you know what, most plastic surgeons actually specialize in things too. So, he might be like the best boob guy in the city, but he's not the best rhinoplasty guy. So, that's on me. But, you just figure you're going to see a plastic surgeon, you're paying so and so amount of money, you just want it to be good. So, anyways, day of surgery comes. I was really nervous. You can't eat after midnight or something like that because in case you get sick. So I had to sign all these forms. My mom came with me. You have to have somebody with you. Obviously, you can't drive home because you're going to be on anesthesia. So that was something I was nervous about. I really, really hate vomiting. That's like one of my biggest fears. So I was freaking out thinking about taking anesthesia because I had never had any before. And so they ended up giving me Gravol with it because I asked for that. I'm like, please, I'm really scared. I don't want to barf. And they're like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And then, so he starts like mapping out, when they do the marker, he did that. And I have a nose ring and I was scared it was going to close. So I'm like, can you just like make sure this doesn't close? Because obviously you can't have metal on you. You can't have earrings, can't have nail polish. Because what I heard about the nail polish thing, I was like, I never understood that whole thing. They want to make sure that like your circulation and everything is okay. So the color of your nails will tell them, I don't know, something about that. But yeah. So basically, it only took about half an hour. Honestly, I just remember them putting a mask on me or giving me an IV and putting a mask on me. And then they're just like, okay, count to 10 or count backwards from 10. And I think I was like 10, 9, done. And I was completely out. I remember everything got really like crazy. The room was just like back and forth like this. And I was starting to get really dizzy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I just passed out. And when I woke up, I remember my throat really, really hurt. And I was like, ugh. I was like, I'm thirsty. My throat hurts. But my face didn't hurt at all. Like, no pain whatsoever. I think that's a lot of people's concerns, is that they're going to be really sore. And I had no issues with that. He just came and he was talking to me. I think I had a cloth over my face. Like, I don't even remember opening my eyes. I just remember him being like, hey, everything went well. You're doing good. You're just relaxing and you can stay here for a bit. And then I think I fell back asleep and or I said, does it look good or something? I don't know. Obviously, that's all I was thinking about. So they ended up moving me into like a recliner. And I was just sitting there half out of it. And I remember this is like the most disturbing thing. I remember I could hear this girl beside me. And she was like, she's like, I don't feel good. And I'm like, please, God, don't let her throw up, because if she throws up, I feel like I'll start getting queasy, and I was getting nervous just listening to her. I think she had just had a breast augmentation, and so she just really wasn't feeling good. They're like, okay, we'll give you some gravel. I was like, yes, please, just shut her up because I can't listen to this. And then I remember I sat up and I like looked down and my nose just started bleeding like crazy. I was freaking out. I'm like, what's going on? And then I felt like fainting like instantly. And I'm not afraid of blood or anything, but obviously, can you see my little tummy poking out there? Sorry, I just realized that. I'm like, you have my pants undone because I'm just in bed and I'm lazy right now. Anyways, so yeah, by that time I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out. A nurse comes by. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm bleeding. And she's like, oh, And she was kind of panicking a little bit, so obviously that's freaking me out even more. So I don't know what the heck's going on. Like, is my nose gonna fall off? Like, am I gonna have to go into emergency? Like, what is going on? And then it ended up one of the girls was like, oh, like she was talking to the other nurse, like, hello, they should have probably discussed this in confidence, but she's like, oh, she had a septoplasty and a rhinoplasty, so it's normal that she'd be bleeding. Just like keep an eye on her. So finally it stopped, but it was like bright red. I'm like losing my mind, freaking out about it. But anyways, sorry. I'm just gonna. There we go. So yeah. So finally everything was okay. I was so tired. I was still really out of it. My mom ended up driving me home, and I think I just passed out for like a couple hours. I don't even remember. Or I wasn't actually sleeping, but I just like wasn't aware of what was going on. Excuse me. So I think the worst part of the whole thing was that I had to have because I had a septoplasty, I had to have what's it called, packing in my nose. So there's just a quick rundown. There's two different kinds of rhinoplasties you can get. There's an open rhinoplasty and a closed. And I had a closed, which I think is part of the issue. But I think open is a better option because they can be more precise. That's when they make an incision right here. They flip the skin up and then they can see everything. For mine, he went through my nostril and he just, I guess, shaved it down through my nostril, as far as I know. And he also broke my nose because I had a deviated septum. So after that, yeah, I got the packing, and that's just to help with bleeding, obviously. So the next day I had to go get it taken out, and I can't remember who took me. I think it was my grandma or something. I just remember it just felt so uncomfortable. It didn't hurt. It felt super uncomfortable. Like when you have a really bad cold and you have such a stuffed nose that anytime you try to drink, it's almost like the feeling of water going up your nose when you're swimming or something. I hate that feeling. So, anyways, I was so happy that I could go the next day and get it taken out. So, they pulled it out and they do it one at a time. So, she did it out of the one nostril, and it felt like those, how like those magicians have those like never ending socks that they pull out of their sleeve? That's what it felt like, honestly. It was just the worst feeling. Like someone was pulling something out of your brain. Like, I can't even explain it. Sorry to be disgusting, but if you want to know about it, that's what it's like. So she just kept going and going, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ever gonna end, like, for real. Then finally she did the second one, and I'm like, yes, like it just felt so much better. So healing wasn't an issue. I had like a ton of bruising underneath my eyes, but that's really normal, especially if you get your nose broken. Um, Besides that, I wasn't in any pain. I think I took. One thing that's annoying though is you have to sleep sitting up. So, not necessarily like sitting up, I did. I just slept in a chair because I didn't want anything to go wrong. But you have to sleep elevated. So, I went for a second rhinoplasty, which I will explain why. And I just slept slightly elevated, like on a couple pillows. I didn't sleep in a chair because I'm like, screw that. I want to sleep in a bed. So, um, finally, I think I had a splint on my nose, so I didn't work for like a week. I took holidays. And then the bruising finally went away. And then I went and got my splint taken off, and I was pumped. Like, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, do I finally have like a flat nose? Like, I just can't wait for this. And I was impressed and I was happy with the results once I got my bandage taken off. Like, it's such a weird feeling to be like, to touch your nose for the first time. You're like, it's weird. I don't know. I can't explain it. the whole time you have the splint on, you're worried. I mean, I could see my nostrils, and before I could never see my nostrils because the tip came down further. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, do I look like a little piglet? Like, I don't know. It just felt weird. So, anyways, I was actually happy with the results. But then as time went on, obviously you're really swollen when your splint comes off. As time goes on, the swelling goes down. So when the swelling went down, sorry, I'm like uncomfortable here. When the swelling went down, I was starting to notice little bumps. So I had like a bump right here where he broke it. And I'm like, okay, well, they're like, oh, it'll probably go away. It'll go away with time. Don't worry about it. And then I had like a couple bumps right here, which I didn't have to begin with. So I was kind of getting pissed off. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I just came to see you to get rid of that massive bump, and now I have all these little ones that I didn't have before. So that's something to think about. Just saying. You can also go for the non-surgical rhinoplasty, which I believe is just injections, but it helps to smooth out the look of the nose. So that's an option too. But anyway, so then as time went by, I'm like, hey, this is looking like crap. Like, why do I have bumps on my nose? So I went to go see him. He's like, okay, you know what? I'll give you a second one. But like, who wants to get a second surgery? When you get one, you just don't want to have to deal with another one. It sucks. It's just like having to take the time off. It wasn't even the pain. It was having to take the time off, having to go through the healing process. Like, it just, ugh, it sucked. So this time he's like, you know, I could just do local anesthesia. And I'm like, okay, fine. So you're not technically fully under because I wasn't getting anything broken. He was just going back in and kind of like, I don't know, shaving it down, I guess. So I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, I just want it fixed. And then I went in for the second time. Same thing. I think it took like half an hour. And then, like, he shaved the bumps down. Same thing happened. I didn't get any bruising, really. And he didn't put a full splint on me, like a cast. It was just a bandage. So, because it wasn't that bad. Anyways. Oh, I forgot to say, during the healing process, the worst thing ever is that you cannot blow your nose. Ugh, that's the worst feeling ever. I never even thought about it until then. And if it's itchy inside, like I remember I had stitches inside, and I was so worried I was gonna pull a stitch out or something. Like when you laugh, okay, this sounds gross, but you get like a collection of dirt and boogers and whatnot. So it starts to get really, really crusty, like on the inside of your nose. And I remember I would just take, because you can't blow, you can't do anything. I would just take like a Q-tip and try to just clean the inside of my nose as best as I could because it was so uncomfortable. Anyways, back to the second one. It didn't take me very long to heal. Probably 3 or 4 days, honestly, because they didn't do as much the second time. So again, there's a swelling process. So everything looks perfect at the beginning because you're super swollen. But then you look back at pictures and you're like, damn, my nose was fat. Like, what happened? But then it's just because you're swollen. So anyways, everything was good. And then I started noticing I had bumps again. So same place, like on the sides. And then I have like a little one right here. I don't know if you can tell, but this is my profile. I don't know if you can see. I'd have to show you pictures of before so that you'd really understand like what it looked like before. But yeah, so here's the thing about surgery. If you're self-conscious about something, you're never going to be 100%. Like, there's always going to be something that bothers you. Now it's like, oh, this body part isn't perfect. Maybe I should just get surgery to fix it. But surgery is not, like, the ultimate fix. Because you're going to keep finding little things that you're not happy about. Like I did. I'm like, okay, I like my nose better now, but, you know, there's still things that I don't like. Or, okay, now that my nose is done, oh, everybody's getting their lips done and my lips are small and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, it's like I don't want to look like everyone else either. I don't want to be 100% fake. I want some of my own body parts. So I just wanted to let you know, maybe just think about it before you do anything and you make any huge decisions, because, it's about you and it's about you loving yourself inside. And I know that's crazy to say because I had surgery, but it really is. Like, you realize that more after you do something like that, because if you're still not confident or 100% happy with things after that, it's like, then it's never going to make you happy. I could have probably gone for a third surgery, but I just think that's out of control, and I just don't even want to have to deal with it again. And like, my boyfriend loves me for who I am, and I love me and whatever. So, just do your research if you're going to get a procedure done. Just realize that it's not going to fix everything. So, if you guys want to see any kind of pictures or you have any other questions, just let me know. Thanks, guys. See you later.